Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them, and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
So if you're just joining us, then on the last podcast, Mel was telling us her sordid and tragic story about Scott's death. And when we finished, she had told us how they had met, about their first date, kind of what the beginning of their marriage was like, and about the surgery that Scott was having, and then also her uncle and him getting suddenly sick and then dying. And we ended with Mel getting a text saying, "Mel, I'm so sorry Scott didn't make it." So now we can pick up and hear the rest of the story.
Okay. First of all,
Did you think it was a joke?
yeah, I didn't understand what was happening because you go into shock.
Okay, it really just said Scott died.
I can't remember what it said. It said something like, "Mel, I'm so sorry Scott didn't make it."
I'm pulling faces right now.
She is. So the text was from Scott's brother, and the story with Scott's family is all of the siblings live in Utah. The parents live in Boise, but two of the siblings that are married with kids were up there visiting while Scott was up there. They were going to an open house thing up there. So they were all together, except Brad, the one that's not married,
That did her makeup earlier.
that did my makeup earlier for the photo shoot and is an amazing photographer. He was in Utah. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
get this text from Scott's brother, from one of Scott's brothers, but not on his phone, on the other brother's phone. It was all confusing.
Yeah, I'm confused.
So
All that matters is that they texted you.
they texted
That's all
me.
they care about.
Yeah. So I go to turn my phone off of, like, make it work, take it off
Yeah.
airplane mode, and then I'm just calling,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't answer. Like, calling. And then he answered, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh my gosh.
like-
my stomach is just like sinking for you in that moment. Like trying to get through, not being sure what they're saying, and just like what are they talking about, and needing to know and not being able to get the information like quickly.
Yeah. And I'm going from watching Stranger Things, which is
Yeah.
great.
To what?
To what are you talking about? It wasn't
Yeah.
real, and it made no sense. So finally I got through to them, and the brother that texted me said, Scott's gone. I'm so sorry. We tried and we couldn't help him. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And the thing that I was noticing at the time is my reaction was so not how you would think it would be in the movies. In the movies,
you're supposed to fall to the floor screaming.
Yes, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
Also, every true crime thing ever, when somebody has planned the death, they overreact and they're
Right.
screaming.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so he's telling me this information, and I'm like, no, go check again. He goes, he wasn't breathing. We couldn't get him breathing again. I go check again. And he kept repeating the same things, and I kept repeating the same things for like 4 times.
Yeah.
And then finally, he's like, Mel, I'm outside of my parents' house. I'm laying on the ground, exhausted, and I just watched them wheel his body into the ambulance and drive away. And that's when it clicked, sort of.
Uh-huh.
So then I'm thinking, you're just in the shock zone. Like you don't react emotionally. You never know how you're going to react emotionally. Like maybe somebody would fall to the ground, but maybe someone
I didn't
like
either.
me, I just was like, huh? What do I do now? What do we do
What
now?
do we do now? But you didn't think of that yet because
No,
we
because
just barely thought of
well,
that.
and also I'm not
tagline.
even there physically, and so it didn't seem real. I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just in my room watching Stranger Things. My uncle had just died. I'm planning on going up and seeing Scott Friday after my uncle's funeral. So it was not computing. And I didn't even know how to end the phone call. I just said, okay, I guess I'll talk to you later.
Ugh.
Bye.
What would you do?
I don't know. I mean, and he probably doesn't remember either because he found him.
Right.
So basically what happened, his family went to the open house, left Scott there at home because he was sleeping really peacefully.
Yeah.
He was breathing. His mom had checked on him really, really meticulously. Like he was being really well taken care of. And they thought, we're not going to wake him up because he finally looks like he's feeling okay. Because Sunday was a really rough day. They came back and his mom said he looked ruddy and
Not good.
and I don't know all the full details, but I just know that they looked in and were like, they're like, something's not
wrong.
right. Scott's brothers, they said this independently that when they walked in the room, they heard him say, they knew he was dead.
What?
And then they felt like they heard him say, it's okay, I'm okay.
Oh, man.
Like one of those things, but independently. Yeah. And then later after they shared stories and it was identical. But they went in and they go, it was the weirdest thing knowing that he was dead and that he wasn't going to come back, but doing CPR. Because they're like, well, we still have to try.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Then we're like jerks.
Okay.
They said, now, okay, for anyone listening of our 6 listeners, if you get squeamish talking about death and like the body part, fast forward 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. They said that his body had started stiffening and going into the rigor mortis.
Yeah.
So how long does it take for that to happen after death?
Well, it depends on what you mean by like true rigor mortis.
Just beginnings.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's like 30 minutes.
Oh, it's that soon.
But I don't know.
We
might have to Google it.
Yeah. You Google that while I continue.
Okay. Googling.
Okay. So.
And then we'll be on like some sort of watch list though when we need to find out how long it takes for rigor mortis to set in.
You know what?
I'm
already going to be there because I Google all the stuff. So
you've ended your phone call.
I've ended my phone call.
You don't know what to do now. Like
No.
you are in, this is like very uncharted territory.
Yes.
Like, what are you supposed to do?
I don't know. And I lived freaking clear the crap out. I did want to say, I know they did 600 compressions. Is that a lot?
That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
That's how much his family did?
Yes. Before the
before they got there?
EMTs arrived. Yeah. Now, fast forward to I'm in Utah. I get this information. I didn't know what to do. I was in shock. It didn't seem real to me. All I knew was I was supposed to be going on a run. And I just got this phone call. So I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I think it's just normal when you're in shock about news like this. I just thought, well, he's in Idaho. He's dead. I can't do anything about it. I can't even call him and talk to him. It's not going to do me any good to drive up there. So should I go on my run? And then I thought, no, I know I'm not going to be okay pretty soon. It was this really interesting inner dialogue.
Did you feel like you were like separated from yourself almost?
Yes.
Yes. Like
Yes.
this situation is happening over here.
Yeah.
And here I am over here.
And I didn't feel like, okay, I got this news and now I feel like my heart's been stabbed. I felt the same,
Yeah.
just confused.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, is something wrong with me? Am I a sociopath? Because
Yes.
I'm not reacting.
The way that you're supposed to, air quotes,
Yes.
supposed to. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I know I probably should not go on a run because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be okay very soon.
Yeah.
So I think I'll call my dad and tell him. So I called my dad. And then as soon as I started calling, I didn't get hysterical really, but I was yelling,
Oh.
not crying. I go,
Yeah.
Dad, Scott died. And he's like, what? Scott died. What? I go, what do I do? He's like, get in the car and drive here. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be okay.
Yeah, you get in the car and drive here.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Oh, man.
click. So then I called my mom. Well, guess where my mom was? At the funeral home with my uncle and my aunts and my cousins.
Oh, man.
And I knew that this was going to be so awful for her, especially because she had the premonition that
Yeah.
he needed to be watched or that something was not going to
Yeah.
be okay. She just always had the bad feeling. And I felt bad that I called. Sorry, Mom. I felt bad that when I called her, I was like just blurting it out. But I
Yeah.
did. I go, Mom, Scott died.
I think it's crazy that you were just yelling at people.
I just yelled. Yeah. And my mom said she fell to the floor. She was by my cousins and they caught her.
So she did what you're supposed to do.
She did what
in
you're
the
supposed to do.
movies.
She's a better person than me.
Because-
I know that I'm the terrible person in my neighborhood, and there's a reason why. Your sister is not off. She has every reason to believe that I am terrible. And then I just kept calling people. After that, I called when I knew I needed to contact some of Scott's theater friends he was really
Right.
close with.
Yeah.
And I didn't know which one to call. There were two I was going back and forth between, and I didn't know what to do. And I feel like, I don't know if it was Scott. I think it was Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Scott was telling me which one to call, and he
Yeah.
said, call Holly Reed. So I called Holly, and her reaction was like, it was great. It was full of expletives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not kidding. She's like, if you're kidding, you need to tell me right now, because this is
This
not
is not
funny.
funny. And you're like, yeah, I know.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm not kidding. And it was interesting, depending on who I called, and their reaction, I was stronger if they were emotional.
oh, yeah.
And if they were not emotional, I started becoming emotional,
Yeah.
maybe to kind of, I didn't know why. So I called a bunch of people, like 20
Yeah.
people, and within an hour, I had a whole musician section around
everybody.
my bed.
Yeah.
I'm like, this sucks that it's for a death, because we would have a great jam session right now if we were all here together for a different reason.
different reason.
And the thing that's really sad is, like, most of them were at my wedding and played at my wedding. And I'm like, really? This is like poetically tragic. So
When did you go up there? Did you go up
I
there?
never went up there.
Oh, you just had him come down.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had to
arranged
do
that?
I don't know, the funeral home. They had to do the autopsy in that state,
Okay, because that's where he
think-
died. Yeah.
and then they shipped his body down here. So I had to pay for like 2
Oh,
funeral homes doing things.
Which could be a topic unto itself.
It could. I also want to say, Scott did not have life insurance, which I'm going to repeatedly say probably every single episode. So if you,
This is where we insert our life insurance commercial.
yes, anybody that wants to be promoted, that's life insurance,
Right
tell
now.
us. We're going to put you in. You can pay us or give us life insurance. Because we are poor widows. Scott did not have life insurance. Please get life insurance. Or
Yeah.
otherwise, you're going to pay for your funeral and anything after that.
Did they do a GoFundMe for you?
They did,
Oh, good.
which was really, really helpful. GoFundMe takes a percentage, so
Yeah.
it would have been helpful to have all of it, but it did.
So-
okay. So
you don't even...
I don't know what's happening. I just called people. They came over, and then it ensued. Everybody kept coming over to my house all day, and normally I would
nonstop.
hate that.
But you liked it?
It was the best thing in the world ever. My house, it was really interesting. I felt like my house was really full of light, and there were parts of it where I felt like really a lot of joy, and then the roller coaster of being sad, but always I felt supported and
Yeah.
lifted up.
Yeah.
It didn't feel raw, hopeless raw at that time.
Right.
And it was a terrible day, but I couldn't have asked for it to have gone any better with all the people that came and just the support. I got a million texts.
Yeah.
I never even got back to writing back to all of them, which I still
didn't
feel
write
bad.
to any of them.
Really?
No,
Okay.
I didn't respond to really anybody.
I just felt so supported and also confused, and it didn't feel real because again, I wasn't there with Scott. I didn't see him die. Well, the thing that I remember being super weird is my dad came in and first thing started talking about funeral. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No. Like, this cannot happen. Like, I need a month. Like, go away.
Yeah.
One thing that was funny about my brain is that when your grandma dies or something, say you're close to your grandma and she's not 98 and ready to die, but you're sad, but you still go to work. You don't have to take a week off, a whole week.
Yeah.
So I thought the only thing I knew was, well, when someone dies, you take a week off of work. So I just thought,
I'll take a week off.
I think, okay, you're going down the checklist of what you have to take care of before you deal with all this stuff. And I just thought, okay, I'll have to call my students and cancel them. I'll just tell them I'll be back in a week. So my friends, my musician friends that had come over, they go, Mel, how can we help? We're going to give us your phone.
Yeah.
Give us these numbers.
Oh,
we're going to take
that is helpful.
your student. They're so great. They go, we're going to call your students and tell them what happened. And I'm like, okay, good. Tell them like, I'll be back in like a week. And they looked at me like, no,
silly girl.
They're like, okay, wink. We'll tell them that. And then they canceled him. So I had a lot of help dealing with that stuff. People were helping me plan the funeral. Scott's family had then come down from Idaho.
How long did it take for him to get back?
A long time.
It did?
I want to say like 4 days.
Okay.
I thought that was long.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're waiting for somebody,
Yeah.
that's long.
I was-
Especially to like really confirm to yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's not real until you see them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like that.
Yeah. It's true.
So
I don't know if it was like this for you, but I just had all the life sucked out of my body. I couldn't walk very well. And I
like right after or in the days after?
both.
Oh, okay.
It's like the strength went away from my legs and they just stopped working.
No, that did not happen to me.
It's because you're so in shape.
No.
You guys should have seen Anita at
at the
viewing. Ow.
I know.
It just depleted me.
Yeah.
And it's really strange to talk about it. I've written about it, which is easier to write about it because
Yeah.
my thoughts come more easily with writing. But yeah, I felt really confused. Now, even though the first day was terrible, but also amazing with all the people there, I felt Scott there too. I felt like he was really happy, even though I know when you're dead, like I've read a lot of near-death experience books
Right.
before Scott died.
Yeah.
Like I was a weirdo. Okay. Unsolved Mysteries, near-death experiences, and the Dick Van Dyke Show. That's my jam, right? But so I mean, according to those accounts, I was familiar with what some people have said their experiences where they feel joy and are happy, and I felt like Scott was happy.
Yeah.
Not
Like
that
concerned for you.
Yeah.
But not like in pain or suffering
he's
or
not-
like upset.
Yeah. He's
for
not
himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not tortured.
Yeah.
I knew that he had to have felt better. I mean, my gosh, he looked like he had gotten beat up and
Yeah.
he felt terrible. So I felt Scott around me as light, and I kind of just felt insulated from a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I was already on like drugs from my car accident to sleep.
Okay. I was going to ask you specifically about sleeping.
Yes. And my friend Sarah, who had lost a baby earlier that year, she showed up that day and she gave me ZzzQuil, and she's like, I know today's crazy. I know there's going to be a lot of people here, so I'm just here to give you this. Here's the ZzzQuil.
Yeah.
And this helped me just take it
Yeah.
and sleep. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Did
Thank
it
you,
work?
Sarah. Totally. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
good.
did. I took that for a while, and I actually didn't have terrible night's sleep since Scott died,
Oh, really?
which I feel like I've been an anomaly in that category.
Yeah. Were you a good sleeper before?
No.
That's such a
I was
mom
anxious.
thing to ask. Are you a good sleeper?
I
Do you
don't know.
sleep through the night? How many hours do you sleep between feedings?
Well, I get up to eat my Lucky Charms every 3.5 hours. I actually did not sleep well because I had a lot of anxiety
Before
before he
and then
died.
you slept better after.
Yes.
That's interesting.
That first night, I
Yeah.
fell asleep.
Yeah.
Thanks to ZzzQuil. Thank you, Sarah, again. And when I woke up the next day, that was the worst feeling
Yeah.
ever. It was the first day that I had woken up knowing that he was gone.
Yeah.
The day before, when I woke up, I'm like, oh, Scott's probably just sleeping.
Right.
So
You woke up. I always say that every morning I had to reacquaint myself with reality, and it was like getting punched in the face every single morning. Like you wake up and you're like, oh.
like a more horrifying version of 50 First Dates.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. Yeah, or Groundhog's Day,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like every single day you wake up and you're like,
And you're
oh,
kind of feeling okay. Like, yeah, I'm coming
'cause
out
you're
of sleep.
asleep.
And then it's gut punch and heart
Yeah.
punch. And oh, it's
Yeah.
so hard.
Yeah.
So hard. So hard. Now we were not only planning my uncle's funeral, we were planning Scott's funeral.
Did you even care about your uncle's funeral anymore?
I forgot about it.
Yeah.
But then I knew, crap, my aunt and my cousins are grieving. I need to check on them. And so I did consciously not want that to take over their
Yeah.
loss, because even though it was shocking and my uncle, we didn't know he was going to die, Scott dying at 39 is more shocking. I didn't want to hijack their grief,
Oh, yeah.
but it also was so consuming that I just felt so wonky in the head. I don't even
Yeah.
know. So yeah, we had a funeral for my uncle Friday and Scott's on Saturday.
Oh.
And I believe after my uncle's funeral, I had to go over to the mortuary to see Scott.
So you went to your uncle's funeral?
I did.
Oh, wow.
I wore like a pajama dress to that and nobody bugged me about it.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to play the piano, like accompany at it.
Uh-huh.
And they told me, they go, hey, if you're not up to it, it's okay. Like one of us can do it. And I was planning on doing it. And when I got there, I just was still so weak.
Yeah.
I couldn't even move my arms. I
Yeah.
just was like,
You're like a blob.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't really do much to help.
Yeah.
But I do remember at my uncle's funeral, after the funeral, when they feed you,
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time I had been able to eat anything. And I think I had some mashed potatoes. But-
Oh, gosh. I had kind of forgotten about that.
Yeah, not being able to eat.
Yeah.
You're so sick to your stomach.
Well,
And it
like
just
nothing,
shuts off.
nothing. You want nothing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I couldn't even eat like pizza or cookies
Or the things
or
that people
easy
like.
things. Yeah, like when you stress eat, I couldn't eat anything. I
Yeah.
couldn't put anything in my stomach.
I lived on Kiva juices for like 6 days or something. It was the only thing I could. They're like smoothies. It's the only thing that I could even make myself. Because people would be like, here, eat this. And I was like, I cannot eat that.
Yeah.
You cannot make me eat that.
It can't go, your body won't
But I can
accept
drink
it.
this Kiva juice.
Yeah.
So.
I think I had broth, and that's all I
Oh my
could
gosh.
even
Yeah.
get in. And even when it was broth, it was like a couple tablespoons.
Yeah.
It was hard.
It's a great diet plan.
It
If
is.
you want to lose some weight.
Have a husband die.
Yeah.
Or you could just be healthy.
Or you could
And
just
exercise.
eat healthy and exercise. But whatever.
Yeah. I think I got my timeline wrong. We dressed Scott's body after my uncle's funeral. But the day before is when I went over and the mortuary had received his body from Idaho. And that's when I was able to see him.
Okay.
So, and that's when you go pick out the casket and all that stuff. Oh, man. So I go there with Scott's parents and with my parents, and it's so awful. And I didn't know what to expect. The only other time I'd been around a dead body in the mortuary, not dressed yet, was a child.
Oh. Because this was your...
Yeah. Well, no, that one.
That's a different one.
I have a couple of children that I've been close to that have died. I know. So, and in that situation, it was very traumatic to watch the family of the child see it. And it was like something straight out of CSI. Metal table, cold, fluorescent lights. So I was expecting that. And I thought, well, I'm not really emotional I'm not a reactor that way. But maybe I will like go up to the body and flop over it and sob and wail because I don't know. And I remember walking in, and the mortuary where we went, they're so great. They just do things the right way. Their rooms are cushy and like carpeted, and the lighting is nice and beautiful, and it's very calm and peaceful. And so I was extra grateful that it was not just metal slab,
but clinical.
Yeah. So we all walked in, and there's Scott at the far end of the room on the table. And as soon as I saw his body, I had this feeling. It was so weird because I was so happy to see him. But then at the same time, I felt like, well, that's not Scott. Scott's been around me this whole time.
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird looking at the body.
Had they embalmed him in Idaho?
Yes.
And then brought him down? Yeah, okay, that makes sense because otherwise.
My dad and his dad were so not okay that they had to leave the room.
Oh.
It was too hard for them.
Yeah.
And my mom and Scott's mom and me stayed in there, and they were crying. And for some reason, for me, seeing his body just helped me feel a lot better. And I was like, oh, look at his scar. Because they did the autopsy. So he had this sweet scar on the top of his head. He had hair, but
you could see it.
But it was shaved on the sides. He had just gotten a haircut. Yeah. He looked awesome, minus black eyes and stuff like that. But his hair looked amazing. He had great hair, and Brianna gave him a great haircut. Witch cousins.
Hashtag
witch cousins. But yeah, so
she gave him a haircut before he died.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like a couple days before he died.
Okay.
Before he went up to Idaho.
Got it.
It was helpful for me to ask questions to the mortician, and that helped me process it and just kind of grasp it.
Was he an organ donor?
I don't think so.
No, you would know.
I would know.
Yes, because it's like a terrible phone call that you have to have.
Oh yeah, then he must not have been.
Yeah.
Then we had to pick a casket, and I remember being in the casket room thinking, "What in the world? They don't care. They're dead. What? How am I supposed to what?
They're so expensive.
They're expensive,
and they're all geared towards old women.
I know,
and like old men.
But
did you get him the mauve one, the mauve?
I wanted to.
Should have.
I wanted to get him the ugliest, tackiest one.
Just was the one with the eagle insert.
Yes, I love that you could get little figurines of wolves.
I know.
We have this thing about wolves. Yeah. So, Scott baked and made amazing cakes. Fabulous cakes, gourmet cakes, designer cakes. I asked for a wolf cake for my birthday. He said no. Not only did he say no, but he said, over my dead body.
Oh, no.
We have a text.
Oh, my God.
That he said that. And I was just like, I'm getting a wolf.
Did you put the wolves in his casket?
No.
No, because they were probably like $800 per wolf.
Yep. But you know what I did?
What?
I had my friend Jeanette that was in on the wolf cake joke.
Yeah.
I had her make a photocopy and laminate it of the wolf cake we wanted.
Oh, and
And on the
slip it in
back,
there?
I wrote, "You owe me a wolf cake." And then I put it in his hand before we closed the casket. I'm
That's
sure someone is horrified right now listening to this, but whatever. I mean, if you're listening to a widow podcast, you have to kind of expect that, right?
So what did his casket look? Was it wood? Or
It looked good. It was wood,
metal?
but it wasn't ugly.
It was.
It was
wood?
really nice.
Yeah.
It was wood. And I chose to do a closed casket because he
Looked like he'd
he
gotten
didn't want
punched in the
people.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did make him look really great
They
with
did.
the makeup and stuff, but I knew he didn't want it open. So I kept it shut. And
Interesting.
we had the funeral at the theater. I call it his 2 p.m. matinee because it was at 2 o'clock. Because we couldn't get the theater in the morning.
Because it was being used as a theater, right?
Yeah.
They had like rehearsals
They had
and stuff.
stuff going
Yeah.
on. Yeah. And it
man.
just happened to be the only week that there was not something at night
Oh,
there.
So
He died at the right time.
yeah. Well, that was nice
was-
of him.
Great funeral.
They played one of
I
your
talked
arrangements,
at it.
right? You did?
Yeah.
I didn't know you talked at it. I knew that you
I
had
talked.
arranged a song, or like you had arranged a song in the past that they used for it, right?
Yes.
You didn't arrange it for the funeral,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. And I wanted his nieces and nephews to be involved somehow, but I didn't want to have it be too scary for them. And so what we did is we had his brothers record them like interview style, and then they made a video and they played the video at the funeral. And I felt like that was good for everyone.
Oh, that's nice.
It didn't ruin it. They didn't have to get up and worry about what do I do if I'm
Right.
crying, and but they were a big part of his life, so it was important. And his one brother talked, and there was a really cool feeling there.
Yeah.
I'm not explaining it very well, but
It's
How do you
maybe not
explain-
words for it,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful funeral, and I feel like that Scott was impressed. I just felt like we had to put on this show, and I
Yeah.
was like, this is dumb,
You're like,
Scott.
we're casting
This is-
Mel
yeah,
Shore
like,
as speaker.
this is a big joke. I'm a jazz musician. I deal with improv on the fly. You're making me plan stuff coherently. So
Yeah.
his friends put together a great musical number, and I liked that the funeral was not too churchy. I didn't want it to be all churchy. I wanted it to be,
Have a nice mix.
yeah, I mean, he has cross section of friends that are of all walks of life and all phases of life and all beliefs and all lifestyles, and so I just wanted it to be workable for everybody. And
It was very nice of you. That
Yeah.
was considerate of you.
I didn't want it to, I know you hate this word, I didn't want it to trigger anybody either way, and
Yeah.
I felt like we accomplished that.
Do you feel like a funeral inherently, though, is going to be triggering?
Totally. I decided to speak because I didn't feel like I could play. I always do music at funerals, but it was too much. And
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't feel any connection to music as soon as he died. I'm like, I'm done playing forever.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't. I just was. It shuts you down. Well, of course, after the funeral, they bury him, and I asked if we could stay and watch the casket be lowered down. Not just like lowered down, but like covered
for
up.
real, you wanted to see him get buried.
Yes, because I felt like I was responsible for making sure that was all taken care of, and it kind of felt like, when you back out of your driveway and you have to see the garage door close.
All the way.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if they were like, now we have to be careful.
Well, the thing about him having a funeral that was at 2 o'clock is that they have to get I think there was a certain time they had to get the casket to the cemetery. Like they had a time, it was a tight time crunch.
Oh, yeah.
For the workers to come and bury him, because the backhoes come and do it. And it actually was really cool and helpful for the kids, the little
really?
kids. Yeah. Because
It removed the mystery.
yes.
It was,
And then
like,
they're like,
very-
cool, dump truck. Ah. So for me, I just wanted it. I was so worried about everybody else and me handling things the right way so that there were no issues with family.
Yeah.
Because, it's things like funerals and how you handle stuff can really cause grief, like extra grief and
Yeah.
problems and bad feelings. And I just wanted to avoid all of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I did my best to make that okay for everyone. And I think sometimes I started feeling guilty if I made anything about me.
Yeah. Whatever.
Like, I
Should
didn't
be
want
about you.
me, when I talked at the funeral, I didn't want it to be about me. And I didn't want it to be like, oh, Mel's making this death about her. Because I didn't know how people were going to react. Even though I know, like, because I told you that. And you were like, yeah, but it is about you because you're the one left.
Yeah.
And it's true. And I think in the initial stages, I really felt like, I have to check on everybody else. And then as like the funeral ended and then the weeks go by and you have less and less support, it's totally about me because I didn't have help.
Yeah.
It was really difficult. And then I started feeling upset. Like, man, I feel like I gave so much and was trying to make sure everyone was okay. But
And
now
then
here I
everybody's
am a
abandoned
month
you.
later and I feel abandoned.
Yeah. I think that's pretty normal.
So, yeah, it's from some of those groups we're on Facebook, the widow
Yeah,
groups, like
yeah.
super common.
Yeah.
Not that it's
Well,
okay,
people go
but
back to their lives,
Yeah.
right? And if you're not right in their face, they just don't remember
yeah.
you.
And they have to go back to their lives.
They do. I mean, you can't fault them. You do. You're
Yeah.
still mad at them.
Yeah.
But it
But
is
it's like,
frustrating.
how dare you go take care of your children instead of me?
So to our 6 listeners, I wonder if they have any more questions.
Yeah.
I think that they should send them to us somehow.
Yeah.
I
We
don't know
have an
how.
Instagram and Anita runs it
Yeah, it's Widow We Do Now.
because I am doing the editing. That's my big job.
Yeah.
You get to do the social media.
So if you have questions or things that we didn't answer or Mel didn't answer, you should send them our way.
Yeah, because also as widows that have gone through sudden death, that means our brains are not always functioning correctly. So I know, at least for me, because that's happening. Plus my brain is crazy. As a musician,
Plus, I'm just a crazy person.
I'm just a crazy person. I leave out details and I forget stuff. So
Yeah.
if there are any questions you have, ask me. I'm very open.
Yeah, obviously that's the whole reason we're doing the podcast too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to talk next time about Anita's story.
Right. You'll get the sordid details from Jason's death,
Yeah.
and we can compare notes,
Compare and contrast.
compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your plans for this week?
So this week, I swear half of my life right now is taking my kids to counseling. Right?
Do they all have separate appointments
Yes. They do. So,
at separate times and separate days?
yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and then I'm doing counseling too. But mine coincides with my daughter's, so at least I'm only going there 3 times a week. And then that's really, I feel like, and then I just got to get a run or a swim or a bike in every day. That's like what I'm most concerned about in my life.
Those are important things.
It is. It's a little bit weird.
Are you
though.
going running tomorrow?
I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Are you prepping for another try?
Yeah, I'm prepping for a huge race in October in Maui.
Oh, yes.
Yes, an off-road triathlon. So, yeah, that's keeping me sane, actually. But, and then I just have to go to, like, work. I don't even know what else. What are you doing? Do you have any cool gigs?
Yeah, actually, I am going to Napa, California.
That's right. I remember
I'm playing
that
a
now.
couple gigs out there. That'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
And other than that, kind of normal stuff, teaching. I need to write music for this podcast,
Oh, yeah.
which is going to sound hilarious that I say this now because I'm going to have created it, but put it on the first podcast.
Right.
So it's irrelevant.
Right.
And I got to edit this podcast. I'm having a lot of fun learning the ins and outs of my programs. I mean,
I'm so glad it's you and not me because it wouldn't happen if it was me.
it's so similar to music editing. It's
Yeah.
easier, actually.
I don't do any of that.
So I'm super stoked that there's something I can do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us as we try to figure out
Widow We Do Now.
This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.